Hello and welcome to a brand new video on our channel Cinema Insider, your ultimate destination for captivating recaps for movies and TV shows across all genres. In today's video we will be recapping an action thriller movie released in 2022, Restless, also known as Sans Repit. The movie has an IMDb rating of 5.8 and has a decent fan base. Now without further delay, let's get right into the recap. At the beginning of the movie, we see a car on a silent streets, and a guy named Thomas driving it. Thomas gets a call from Naomi, who is very mad at him. Thomas tells her not to panic and keeps the phone. Well, they are both policemen and there was a problem at the police station. Now, as soon as he keeps Naomi's phone, he gets another call from Agatha, his sister, who was also mad at him because he is late arriving home. We see that his mom had died recently, and he was late to attend his mother's funeral. He keeps his sister's call, and as soon as he does that, Thomas notices a dog in front of his car, and while attempting to save it, Thomas hits a person. Thomas panics and gets out of his car to check if he's dead or alive and finds him dead. Before he could do anything, police officers arrive there, and he quickly hides the dead body in his car trunk, and as soon as they leave, Thomas also leaves for home, but he is an unlucky guy. On his way, he encounters a roadblock where police officers were checking everyone's car passing by. Thomas was getting late for the funeral. He killed a guy and encountered a dead body. His best day, isn't it? Anyways, Thomas tries to convince the police officers, saying there is nothing in his car, and introduces himself as a fellow police officer, but one of the officers was way too curious to check out his car trunk, so he moves towards the car to check it without Thomas' permission. Thomas gets angry and starts fighting with the officer, but before it got worse, a senior police officer comes there to calm them down. The scene switches to a police station where we see two black cars entering the police station in high speed. Inside the station, a lot of people came out of that car. They were the superiors who came to check the internal affairs of the police station. When Thomas's partner Mark notices the superiors in the police station, he panics and quickly opens Thomas's locker. We see a lot of money in Thomas's locker, which was most likely earned from corruption. That's the only explanation for Mark panicking, right? They take the money and flush it in the washroom, but they don't realize that they were being noticed by the leader of these people. We see Thomas reach the hospital where all dead bodies were kept, and upon entering the hospital he finds his daughter Lousy and his sister Agatha, who were waiting for him in the hospital. After he tells Agatha everything is fine, and after supporting her, they enter a room where the dead body of his mom was kept. Everything was ready to start the funeral. Thomas gets a call from Mark, who tells him about the situation in the police station. He tells him that superiors have got the information on their secret stash, and asks him if there is any suspicious stuff in his car that would get him caught. Thomas starts to panic because his car had an entire dead body in his car. He tightly ties the dead body and hides it. After that, Thomas enters a room and opens the top of his mom's coffin. He then brings the dead body of that person to his mom's room by using every ounce of his energy, and puts the dead body together with his mom's dead body in the coffin. He then closes the room's door and starts to pray for his dead mom. In the next scene, we see Thomas's mom's body was being taken for the funeral, and the people who were lifting the coffin were having a rough time. Because the coffin was extremely heavy, they all must be wondering what this old lady ate when she was alive. Anyways, after burying the body, Thomas is finally in peace because he thinks the problem is over. Next day, Mark visits Thomas's home to warn him because the senior officers had their eyes on him. After that, we see Thomas washing his car from top to bottom to remove any blood stains from the dead bodies from that car. Even though he removed the blood stains, there was still a problem. The glass in his car had scratches from last night, and to avoid the investigation, he intentionally hits another car with his car to make the superiors think the scratch on his car was due to a simple car accident, not a murder. We see Mark and Thomas in the police station, who tells how him and Naomi saved him. If they didn't, he would have been in prison, where Thomas tells him he isn't innocent either. You are also corrupted, and they start to argue there. Naomi comes and calms them down. The chief officer had called them to assign a new mission. They had to raid a place, so they fill ammo in their guns and prepare themselves. Officer Vaubour shows them a photo of a guy and tells them the guy name is Manuel. He is a drug dealer that two of a very very high level, a dangerous person who is being chased by superior officers. Looking at the picture, Thomas freaks out because guess what? Last night he killed that guy with his car. Now their team get to that place on the car. They search every corner, and after searching for such long time they don't find Manuel. How will they find he is already dead? Anyways, Vobur is upset because he wanted to make a name for himself by capturing a drug dealer, and his plans have failed now. Thomas finds a puppy that he was about to hit with his car last night in that area. He follows the puppy, and the puppy takes him to the same road where accident occurred last night. In the meantime, another police officer arrives there and tells Thomas someone had reported an accident that occurred last night on this road. Luck isn't favoring Thomas at all right now. To top it off, there was a CCTV camera at the pole at the roadside, and to top it off, it was pointed right at the point where accident occurred. Thomas was in trouble. Thomas tells everyone that he will check the footage, but obviously he wants to get rid of it. The officer assigns different tasks to Thomas, and Mark checks the footage. Mark notices the car in the footage was exactly like the car used by their department, but before they could check the number plate, Thomas distracts them and calls them to have food. Thomas was doing target practice when he gets a call from a mysterious person who tells him, "I want to file a report. I saw a police officer killing Manuel on the road. So tell me, Mr. Thomas, where did you hide the body of Manuel?" He was playing around with Thomas, so he cuts the call. Then Naomi gets the call from same man who asks her to tell Thomas to pick the call or she will be in trouble, so she tells Thomas. Thomas is even more terrified because the person had the personal phone number of Naomi and he has to pick the call. The person tells him not to play smart because he has evidence of Thomas hitting Manuel and he would be in big problem if he tried to pull off something weird. As he was talking, a person driving a car runs over him with his car and Thomas manages to save himself. He tries to follow the car and Mark stops him. He is surprised how Thomas has made his car like new by now. He tells Thomas that they have got intel on Manuel's location from his phone. Thomas realizes that the phone was found around the area where his mom was buried and Mark starts to suspect Thomas. This meant that Thomas forgot to destroy the phone in a hurry and buried it with his mom's body, and the phone is currently ringing there. Thomas again gets a call from that man who taunts him and says, "Even though you are a policeman, you couldn't follow me." Thomas gets angry and he swears that man and cuts the call, but he doesn't know that the man was a very powerful. When Thomas was in police station, that man comes to him and slaps him, asking him how he got the courage to swear on him and cut his call. He then badly beats up Thomas and officers stop him. When he is asked the reason for his action, he tells everyone he thought Thomas was a thief that he was chasing, but it was just a misunderstanding and gets away with that. Hearing their conversation, we realize that person was a senior officer of Narcotics Division, Simon Abkarian, meaning that Thomas had fallen in hands of a very dangerous person. Even though he was terrified, he meets Abkarian, who threatens him by saying he has all the evidence against him and asks him to do what he says. Thomas asks him what he wants. He tells Thomas to bring the dead body of Manuel to him, or else his family would be in trouble. Hearing him talk about his family, Thomas gets aggressive and starts to fight him but stands no chance. Abkarian beats him badly, and after getting beaten up, Thomas finally agrees to that guy and visits his mom's grave. After digging hard, he finally brings out the body of Manuel, but he doesn't know why Abkarian needs his body, so he starts checking it. He finds Manuel's phone there, and after investigating for a while, he finds 2 bullets in Manuel's belly, meaning that someone was trying to kill Manuel, but bad luck for Thomas. He struck him with his car, and the guy who wanted to kill Manuel saw him stuck Manuel with his car. Most likely the person chasing Manuel was Abkarian. He loses his mind and decides to investigate further on why he wanted to kill Manuel, and to do that he visits Manuel's hiding place, where he finds an old envelope which had photos related to safety vault. Right after, someone calls on Manuel's phone and directly asks Manuel, "Where are you? I was worried, and I thought Abkarian killed you." Hearing this, Manuel realizes that the person on the phone was Manuel's close friend, and now is sure that Abkarian had shot Manuel in his belly. He goes back to his police station and asks Naomi to track the location and details of the person who called Manuel through that phone number. We see that the number belonged to a guy named Michael Burgi, who is a hacker and a good friend of Manuel. Now, Thomas decides to visit this guy and drives his car to his home. On the other hand, we see Mark looking at a paper that had the news of Thomas crossing the speed limit on the highway. Mark didn't care about the new but was focusing on Thomas's car. Now his suspicion on Thomas grows even more, and he is almost sure that the hit-and-run case he has been investigating is caused by Thomas himself. Thomas reaches Michael and meets him. They have a talk, and after a while Thomas catches him and throws him into the washing machine and starts to question him about Michael and Abkarian. He asks that guy to tell him everything about Michael and Abkarian, or else he would turn on the washing machine and wash him away. Although it was supposed to be serious, I found this moment very funny. What a great way to threaten someone, isn't it? Anyways, Michael is very scared and starts to talk. He tells Thomas that Abkarian is searching for a key that will open a vault which has a lot of cash in it. Thomas still doesn't understand anything, and Michael explains. Abkarian is senior officer and commissioner of narcotics division who used to hide almost half of the drugs raided by his crew and sell it for a high price. The main task was handled by Manuel. He had the job of mixing the drug and alcohol and sell it. By selling drugs, Abkarian had become very rich, and he got to know famous people. He became a very great and rich figure by doing this. One day Manuel got greedy and stole all of his drugs and sold it. This made Abkarian angry and started to get rid of all of Manuel's friends, but Manuel was also very clever, so he hid all the money in a vault and ran away. Hearing this story, Thomas asks Michael where the key of that vault was, and Michael tells Thomas that the key is inside Manuel's body. Thomas runs an operation on Manuel's body. He finds a key, but Mark arrives in the scene and points a gun towards Thomas. By now Mark understood everything and arrests Thomas. He is disappointed in Thomas. He tells him, even though we aren't perfect cops, it doesn't mean that we are murderers, and this time Thomas crossed his line. So Thomas tells him everything, and hearing the story, Mark releases him. As soon as he gets released, Abkarian calls him and tells him to get out of the car. As soon as Thomas gets out of the car, a huge container drops on Mark's car, killing Mark and destroying the car. Now Thomas starts to cry and decides and tells Abkarian that he will take Abkarian to prison with him. Abkarian laughs and tells him that he is going to his home. He asks him if he would surrender himself first or Abkarian would kill his family first. Hearing this, Thomas rushes to his home where he finds his family. Alright, then he sends them out of the city away from Abkarian. Thomas goes to police station and issues a lot of mini bombs which he decides to fit in Manuel's body. He makes a plan to kill Abkarian with mini bombs. He visits Abkarian in the place he asked and puts the body in his car trunk. Abkarian points a gun towards Thomas, but Thomas threatens him that he will leak information if he gets killed, so Abkarian decides to spare his life. Thomas activates the mini bomb and soon the car blasts, but Abkarian manages to survive, and soon after there is a fight between Thomas and Abkarian where Thomas manages to kill him with his gun. Soon after, police comes to the place, and after investigation they imprison Thomas. A police superintendent is accusing Thomas of drug dealing and murder, where Thomas's leader officer defends him and decides to clear all evidence against Thomas. We see retired Thomas on a beach, and Naomi gives him a key that was left on Mark's car. Thomas had retired as a police officer and gave all of his benefits to Mark's wife so she could have a good life. When Thomas opens a vault, from that key he finds money. So much money that would be enough to spend his entire life with luxury. Well, that ends today's recap. How do you think Thomas will spend his money? Well, that remains a mystery which will hopefully be covered in the part 2. Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed and subscribe to our channel for more recaps. Leave your thoughts and theories in comments, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.